This is The High Road with author and registered psychotherapist, Dr. Marlene Bizub. Dr. Marlene speaks to the heart of people who need to be lifted up and get out of the muck and mire that often accompanies major life changes, such as divorce or separation. Dr. Marlene will aspire to help parents of divorce to love their children more than they hate their ex, and to learn to take the high road. So please welcome the host of The High Road, Dr. Marlene.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road that can be found on my YouTube channel, Dr. Marlene, or on LinkedIn, also Dr. Marlene. We're glad to have you with us today, kind of starting a new adventure with the show, with George being a co-host. So I'll introduce you this once, George, but for now on, you're not a guest. So no, I'm kidding. George Salley is an attorney who's been doing this show with me for just about as long as I've been doing it. Right, George?
Just about, Dr. Marlene. Great to be with you again this morning, and at least in our time.
Yes, yes. Well, and we've also added, I didn't say this on the intro, I should have, but we have added a subtitle of The High Road Lessons from the Shark and the Shrink. And you, of course, George, are the shark and I'm the shrink. Neither are terribly flattering names that people give us, but that's what they commonly refer to us as sharks and shrinks. So I'll
Oh,
take that.
we're tough. We can take it.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Speaking of tough, we've got a couple of tough topics today, and I'm tempted to start with the toughest first, but I think I'll hold off and we'll go with the easier one first. It's more practical, and that is it is the end of summer most places. Kids are going back to school most places, and so things are going to change up a bit. And so I thought it was a good time to remind co-parents, who is who we kind of tailor our show towards, that you're not going to follow the same schedule you've been following. And you sure as heck can't go back and make up one parent's vacation time and then the other parent's vacation time. It's too cumbersome. And so we just have to get used to a different schedule now that summer is over. And what I mean, and you can tell me what you think, George, but often parents are doing, um, a 5-2-2-5, where they're with one parent Monday and Tuesday every week, the other parent Wednesday and Thursday every week. And then they alternate Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, something like that. And then during the summer, they'll go to a week on, week off, something like that, to give each parent extended time with the children. And each will get a 2-week vacation, typically, not always, but typically. And so when you go back to your 5-2-2-5 or whatever you observe during the school year, some parents perceive there's some makeup time. And there isn't makeup. I mean, it just supersedes the regular parenting time, or we could consider it a scheduled change, but we're going to change back now, and we're really not going to try to make up lost vacation time or any of that. Is that the way you handle it too?
It is. And if parents are squabbling about going back to school and who's buying the supplies and so forth, this is the show for them.
Right, that's right. Because I do have, that's funny you said that. I had someone in my office yesterday talking about who's going to buy the school supplies, and can I then send the other parent the receipt and expect them to pay me half back? Well, all of that, first of all, depends on what your order says. So there's that. But typically, my answer is yes. Either one of you take them and give the receipt to the other, and they'll pay you half back, or decide that one parent's going to buy the school supplies and take the child to get those. The other's going to buy clothes and backpack, and they'll take the child to get those things. You can do it however you want, but you are right. Parents squabble about these things, and I'm sorry, it's a little bit ridiculous.
It really is, and judges really have no tolerance for that kind of squabbling.
No.
Sometimes a parent will want to take the case back to court over something as petty as school supplies. The judges are not going to look upon that favorably.
No, no, they're not. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Most of what you and I deal with, or a lot of what we deal with in our offices, or at least for me, is working through these kinds of things. And, I'm sure you do it too with your client. I'm doing it usually with both parents. But I tell them all the time, the judge does not want to see you about these kinds of issues.
Well,
And
not
so,
only that, but economically, it's not justifiable. To go to
no,
court over school supplies will cost a great deal more than the school supplies themselves. So we want to see
exactly.
parents be practical.
Yes, and sometimes they do it on principle, and there's no principle. I mean, I'm sorry, there's no principle. It's your child. If you spend a little bit more money on your child than the other parent, it's okay. It's your child. I mean, but you have parents who really do get nitpicky about that, which leads me to talk about my tagline that we talk about all the time, but learn to love your children more than you hate your ex. When you focus on the child, you're not going to go wrong. But when you focus on money and the other parent and everything being equal and even and fair, then yeah, we're going to have a miserable life.
Yeah, it's true because it's not a perfect world, and they're not going to
No.
split every penny. I've heard many judges say the same thing. They say, "I'm not going to count the beans in the can."
Right,
So
right. It is so true. And I have to tell you, even in intact families, things aren't always even and equal and fair. Now, the money might be in one pot, so to speak, all the beans in one pot, but there's time differences, and we don't see parents arguing about how much time each parent spends with the child in intact families, but we get really hung up on that when we're separated and or divorced.
we really do, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on one's point of view, that has to do with child support. And
Yes.
so, unfortunately or fortunately, uh, people struggle over time or they try to garner more time to manipulate the child support calculation. And that's really unfortunate.
Yes, it is. It is. And that's a big issue with a lot of parents paying child support. And they say things like, I'll give it to my child. Well, if your child is 6, no, you won't. You'll give it to the other parent. But, they often think that, and that's just not the way it works.
No, it isn't. And the judges are real clear on that. They're very clear and they say the child support goes from one parent to the other parent. And that's true until the child emancipates.
Yes, right, right. Well, and let's be honest here. Expenses for our children don't happen the minute they emancipate, the minute they turn 18. Their expenses don't go away.
No, no, just like they don't go away. I mean,
Right,
they
right.
might go away to school or something like that, but I mean, typically in this day and age, you're going to have an 18-year-old around for a while.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. And they leave and come back sometimes. Getting back to the vacation and holiday and all that, most of the parents I work with, they don't expect to make up the 2-week vacation period. But I do still have a lot of parents who think it was my weekend, it was his or her holiday, and so they got that day, but it was my weekend, so they owe me a day. And I'm going to tell you, unless your order says that, that is not the way it works. Some of your holidays are going to fall on the other parent's time. Some of their holidays are going to fall on your time. And we don't try to make all that up. It's going to come out pretty even in the end. Don't you agree?
I do, and I think it's unfortunate if parents squabble over a day here or a day there. Uh,
Yes.
my experience with clients is that their children are not invested in that the way they are.
No. No. No, you're right. They are not. And that's a really good point to make and an important point to make. Your children don't care like you do how much time they have with each parent. Now, there's exceptions, and we're going to talk about that later. That's the second issue for today, and probably the more important and serious issue are about kids who don't want to go. And we will talk about that in a bit. But unless you have a situation like that, your kids are not counting the minutes that they spend with each parent like you guys are.
No, they're absolutely not. They're typically not invested in the finance. It's
Mm-mm.
unfortunate if parents enmesh the children in the financial issues. They're really not
Mhm.
equipped to deal with it. And it's unfair to the child, really, to enmesh them in the financial issues.
It is. It truly is. Or any adult issues for that matter. That's another good point, George. We don't need to involve our kids in all of these arguments and money issues, and especially money issues. I have parents say to the children, I pay your mother or your father child support so they can buy your school supplies. Well, child support's not going to cover everything for the child.
No, and things come up. Some schools I know, grades, they provide supply lists that
Mhm.
can be followed. But I mean, these are your children. If you spend an extra nickel on your child, so what? I mean,
Right.
really.
Right. Exactly. And that never goes away, like we were talking about earlier. I have a 36-year-old who, as much as he hates it, I insist on paying. He went back to grad school and he's working too. And I'm insisting, this is my desire, to help pay for that, for his um, grad school expenses. And he hates it. But to me, they're always our kids. And when you do things like that, I just believe in helping. And I'm not saying other people need to do that or should feel that way or handle it that way, but that's the way I see it. And I would hope that parents would at least end this nonsense when they do turn 18 and help your child as your heart leads you.
Yeah, I think there's no question about it. I say sometimes law gets in
Mhm.
the way of justice. and
Yes,
and
yes.
that's unfortunate, but really they stay your children. They don't turn 18. We turn a page on a calendar and all of a sudden uh, we have nothing more responsibility in terms of our children. That's just not realistic. I have a 36-year-old as well, and
We're
he's
old, George.
we're,
We're old.
well, I had mine when I was 12, so
Right, yeah, and I had mine when I was 10, so yeah.
there you go. But
But you were saying, yeah.
he stays my child at 36. So when I can help him or provide him with advice or feedback, I'm happy to do so while still staying out of the way and realizing that he's a grown man and he can make his own decisions. But that's not true of little children. They can't make their own decisions.
No,
They're not equipped
no,
to do that. And well, that's one thing very important about loving your children more than you hate your ex is realizing that they hurt over parental conflict. Has been my
yeah.
experience with children.
Oh, they do, and they internalize some of the things that parents say too, and I think that's an important point that a lot of parents don't realize. they totally overlook or just don't know the fact that children, especially when they're younger, derive their identity from both of their parents. So when you put down the parent, you're putting down the child as well.
Yeah, I think the children, they identify, I'm part mom, I'm part
Mhm.
dad. If he or she is bad, then part of me at least is bad. And
Yes.
that's real unfortunate. That can lead to some real problems, I think, as the kids age. If they have that ingrained in their head that part of them is bad, then I think this would be more in your lane, but I would think they would be more likely to act out and seek out inappropriate friends and so forth.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And inappropriate habits and activities and things they shouldn't be doing. Yeah, yeah. There's evidence of that. And there's evidence of the same when there's an absent parent, which is kind of a good segue into the second part of what we're going to talk about today. But um, they will gravitate toward one parent or the other. And during adolescence, it's going to be the same gender parent. And it's just unfortunate what parents do with that. You know, they will turn their kids against them quicker than anything when they put down that other parent. And and your kids aren't going to let you put down the other parent. They can, but you can't. They feel like they have the right to, but you don't.
Well, I think parents have to be very careful about that. Even I spoke of having a 36-year-old. I'm divorced from his mother. I'm still very careful about what I say to him about his mom. Basically, I
Yes.
don't say much at all. I might say something like that, but that's about it. And I'm still very careful and very measured in not interrogating him or criticizing his mom to him. And he's 36 years old. So if he can process that, then think of a 10 or a 12-year-old, how they can process that.
Right. Right, exactly. And also what often happens if a parent is successful in alienating a child from the other parent, if they are successful, when that child becomes an adult, they're going to look back on it and they're going to see exactly what you did. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen adult children completely stop having a relationship with the parent that they were aligned with because they become adults and they see what you did and they look back and think, how dare you? So,
Yeah, I think that's true. It cost them a parent, so to speak, in
yes,
childhood and adolescence, and understandably, they probably resent that.
right, right. And it is understandable. I mean, the greatest gift we can give our children is permission to love both parents. And when you make a child afraid to speak positively about the other parent, to miss the other parent, to have fun with the other parent, this just happened to me yesterday. I have I think she's 13-year old going on a vacation out of the country with her dad. And she is super excited. And mom has had her feelings hurt and has told the child she has her feelings hurt because the little gal is so excited about vacation with dad, as she should be. She should be excited, just as she should be excited about vacation with mom. And I'm sure will be. But mom has taken offense and had her feelings hurt and expressed that she had her feelings hurt. And I'm on the phone yesterday to the 13-year-old with her saying, is this right? And I'm like, no. And I hate to call out the parent and undermine her authority in any way, but I'm going to tell the child the truth. And when she said, is this right? Should she be making me feel bad that I'm excited? It's like, no, she should not be making you feel that way. Hey, we will talk more about that when we come back because we need to take a quick break and I'm going to let you comment on that too, George. But this is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road, and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road, Lessons from the Shark and the Shrink on Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. George, before we went to break, I was talking about a child, 13-year-old child, asking me, and I was honest in answering this, if it was right that her mom expressed how much her feelings were hurt that she's excited about her vacation with her dad. Now, like I said, I told this little gal, no, that's not right. You should be able to be excited about your vacation with either parent without worrying about hurting the feelings of the other parent. I want your take on that.
Well, I think that's definitely true. We don't need parents helicopter parenting and interfering with the other parents' parenting and parenting time. But my experience has been that clients are afraid. They're afraid of the time that they're going to have with their children. They're afraid of losing somehow their children in a divorce case. So first of all, I try to redirect that fear and indicate that that's unlikely. They're not going to lose their children. They're not going to be excluded from their children's lives and so forth. And so it's healthy for the children not to be manipulated by the parents, by their fear. And I tell them that. I say, if you're afraid and you communicate that fear to your child or your children, they're going to be burdened with that and not know how to deal with it. So it's very important that you give them permission to love that other parent.
Yes, yes. And you are right. That is based largely, if not solely, in fear. It is. They're afraid the child's going to stop loving them. They're afraid the child's going to love the other parent more. And that is rarely the case. I mean, I think all children kind of, I don't want to say have a preference for, but gravitate toward one parent. And it might be based on gender. It might change over time. When they're younger, it might be mommy. If they're boys, when they get older and they're in the adolescent stage of development, they might gravitate toward that same gender parent. Now it's dad. But they should feel completely comfortable and not worry about hurting their parents' feelings to say how much they're looking forward to doing anything with the other parent, a trip or any kind of activity.
Well, I think one of your great examples of that is the child who told, I believe it was his mom, that they're going on a boat.
Oh,
And
yes.
she was extremely afraid that that meant that dad was taking the children and going on a cruise or going somewhere on a ship when they were just visiting a boat that was in dock. It was
Yes.
docked. And so that's just a quick example. Maybe you could share
Yeah.
that. Um,
Oh, yeah,
so
it was totally irrational. I don't mean to interrupt, but I will share the story. Totally irrational. Mom called me and said, my son said they're getting on a boat tomorrow and taking off, or, getting on a boat tomorrow is what she said. So to her, that meant that he was taking off with the kids, and it was a docked boat and they were touring it. Yeah. That's how our irrational fears, but that's a perfect example of how it's based in fear. And that's totally irrational, but to her in that moment, it was very real and that was her fear. And I had to reassure her, it was a simple call to dad saying, "What are you getting on a boat for tomorrow?" And he said, "To take a tour of this boat that is docked in this harbor or whatever." Yeah. Yes, the things we deal with, lessons from the shark and the shrink. Here we go. I don't want to run out of time to talk about this next topic. So, resistant kids, and we could do probably 5 shows alone on this topic. But something I have been dealing with lately, and as our regular viewers or listeners know, a lot of what I talk about anyway has to do with what I'm dealing with in my cases at the time. And I've really been working on reunifying a teenage girl, 15, I think soon to be 16, I believe, but anyway, 15 right now, with her dad. And one of the things that I've had some difficulty with is getting them to find something that they connect on, that they can connect with in doing something, doing an activity. How can you connect? And as bad as this might sound, we decided, but it's school time, back to school. We decided shopping in this particular case. Dad's going to take her shopping. Well, you got to do stuff like that. If you think you're going to go sit in a restaurant, sit in your home, anything else, that this dad is calling normal, and it may be normal, but that's not going to cut it. They've been going to dinner, and he said she won't talk. And I said, walk around the mall with her or take her shopping and she'll talk. And so my point is, you've got to find something where you connect and where you can have interaction. And it's probably not going to be sitting and watching a TV show, because while you might both enjoy that, you're not connecting, you're not developing relationship.
mhm. Yeah, I think
Well,
that's true. And observing parents with their teenage children, it's almost visible, the ones that are close and are comfortable
mhm.
with each other and the ones that have difficulty in their relationship. And that difficulty in their relationship is only going to be amplified if the child is enmeshed in parental conflict.
Yes, yes, that is so true. And I totally agree with you. You can tell just watching them who is connected to who, or whether they are connected. And sometimes you just have to think outside the box. I mean, I had to work with this dad a little bit to get him to agree to take her shopping. But he has agreed, and they are going to go, and I'll be happy to report back on that. But you just have to find a way to connect and a way to talk. And it's usually not sitting in my office either. I have a lot of parents that come in with their kids for reunification therapy. And it's like sitting in here, staring at each other and pointing out all the complaints you have about the other is not how you're going to fix it. It's by finding a way to connect sharing some time together, sharing an activity together. And what a lot of parents do, and this is why it's important to me to bring this up, is a lot of parents want to do something that the parent likes, but the child has no interest. And in this case, am I asking the dad to do something that maybe he has no interest in? Yes, I am. But I think what he's going to gain from that is important. And we are the parents. We might not get to do what we want to do. But if you want to learn to connect with an estranged child or distant child, suck it up and go do something they like.
Yeah,
That's
I
my piece.
think that's you can tell the parents and the children who are maintaining somewhat of a healthy relationship.
Mhm.
Um, I don't see the children in my office. I didn't see the children in my office, but the parents, the children don't come with an owner's manual. And
Right.
so the parents have to explore some things and really learn to meet their kids on their level so they
Yes.
can have good communication. And that's what really the parents have communicated to me
Mhm.
uh, about their relationship with their children.
That's right. And it might have to be something you have no interest in doing, but you've got to live in their world if you want them to connect to you, especially when they're teenagers. Younger kids are a bit more malleable. You can mold them a bit more, but teenagers have their own interests. And if you want to connect, I mean, I had actually the mom in this same case tell me that she'll go in the teenage daughter's room and just sit there and say, "What you doing?" And just see what she's doing, who she's FaceTiming with, or whatever she's doing. And you got to meet them where they're at. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's was my experience with parents as well, is trying to redirect that fear a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, that was a big part of representing a client and trying to help them through the divorce process.
Hmm. Yes. And the best way to get over that fear is to live in their world. Meet them where they're at. You can't expect them to come to where you're at. We're the parents, they're the children.
Right, right.
All
No
right.
question
Well,
about it.
yes, for sure. This time went by so fast, but um, thank you, George, for being here, as you're going to be every time from now on. But thank you, audience, too. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you've been watching The High Road, Lessons from the Shark and the Shrink on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.
Tune in to The High Road with host Dr. Marlene and gain insight into how to rise above tough circumstances and learn the skills that will help you take the high road in your life, no matter what challenges might come your way, on the next episode of The High Road.